What's up, everyone? Michael Falk with the Milwaukee Sports Performance Podcast. I'm joined again today by Jason Tipton, the Director of Instruction at Shinnecoa Country Club, and this year one of the newest top teachers from Golf Digest. So we're going to keep rolling through some of the winter golf series. We've released 2 so far. One kind of on using assessments and setting a plan. Second one on golf speed training. And in this one, our thought was we're still in the middle of kind of the off season here. If you're in a northern climate, we're still several months away from being able to go outside and play on any type of consistent basis. So trying to get a little bit more practical with how do you actually practice and get things to transfer inside to, ultimately then scoring on the golf course. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's kind of the goal that we'll try to get into today. So overall, big picture, what are some things that we could practice inside and, get better at or have carry over and transfer outside?
So, I think, I've listened to other podcasts we've put out. I'm obviously big on things that happen before, the club moves. So, there are certainly some situations, maybe you're at a club, maybe you have a winter membership to a sim place, right? But the reality is a lot of these listeners probably don't have either.
Yeah.
So, it's just kind of finding ways to make meaningful changes, and maybe it's not even at a sim place, maybe it's at your house. So, the big thing for me is like our setup. So you have a mirror in your bathroom, right? You can check posture in the mirror, right?
Nice.
You can, you can formulate kind of a routine of how you walk into the ball, and you can just do that in your living room, while you're watching TV, like maybe even during the commercial breaks, right?
Yeah.
So, that kind of stuff is so easy to do away from a simulator, away really from anywhere. Just if you have a golf club, right?
I'm gonna put that part of the podcast on repeat for my wife when she makes fun of me for doing dry drills and setup drills in the bathroom mirror, in the middle of the kitchen, anything like that. And she's
That's
like,
right.
"What are you doing?" Like, I am getting better. Just listen to Jason.
That's right. I mean, you can never have like too of a setup or too consistent, right?
Yeah.
That stuff never goes out of style. All the the non-sexy, stuff about golf is timeless. That's how it's always, been. But if you're at a sim place, let's say maybe you have a membership somewhere or your club has a sim. I'm a big fan of, if you're going to make a change, now is kind of the time to do it. And, any change that we make is going to be directly correlated with impact, right? So we don't make changes just to make things look better. It's for a reason. So things like where the club is hitting the ground, right? So where's your low point? Are we consistently getting ball, then turf contact? So we can do that, sim. As you know, the face is the king.
Yeah.
Wherever that face is pointed, that's where the ball is going to go. So, making it almost a game of calling your shot. Can I hit it left? Can I hit it right? And really being really aware with the face. That's something we can practice on a sim as well.
Yeah. No, I think those are all really good points. And, I think that there's a ton of carryover, like almost to the point that if you do get to hit on the sim regularly, you almost become addicted to the numbers. I've actually had to almost take a step back this year. It's like, all right, I'm not going to worry about every single path and face number. And we're going to look at overall trends and am I hitting it in the middle of the club? But, getting feedback on that stuff is not something that you get when you're out practicing unless you have a TrackMan with you outside. So I feel like some learning benefits if you're trying to make a change to see like, let me feel like, okay, if I feel like the club goes here, what happens? Like, what's the outcome? And like building some sensation around that.
Absolutely. And a lot of times, again, like we make changes in our swing to make positive impacts on our impact position, which may make your ball go farther or shorter, right? So farther, obviously, if we're just not striking exactly the way we would want, right? And, we get, a little more center contact and where the club is bottoming out at the right time, you might see a little bit more distance there. Now, sims have gotten really good, and those carry numbers are really important to know. So let's say you're hitting your pitching wedge 110 yards.
Yeah.
You made a couple changes, and now it's like 125-ish. Well, when you go to 110, when you get out in the spring and you blow it over the green, now you're going to go, I didn't know, right? Or sometimes, there are situations where you kind of need to hit it a little bit shorter, right? So if, maybe we were just launching it a little bit, too low, not enough spin, maybe the handle was too far forward, it's just kind of coming out head height and too far for some of your clubs. Maybe some of those changes are actually trying to get a little more loft and spin on maybe a short iron so that we can hold greens with scoring clubs. Wedges are another big one, right?
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of, hitting some distance wedges all winter. If I feel like I'm, going to either, 9 o'clock or 10:30, what does that do for the carry distance, right? Because when we get out into the spring, you're going to have that 50, 60, 70 yard shot. It's really good to have just a plan, from your indoor.
What that feels like.
No, it's not always going to be like apples to apples perfect, right? Especially when you go out. If you're up in the northern climate like we are, it's going to maybe go a little bit shorter, in that spring. But you start to get yourself a little bit of a baseline, and then you can just kind of adjust as you make that transition back outside.
Yeah. No, I think that's interesting. And I mean, I don't know, with the scoring clubs especially, I feel like there's so much that, I mean, when you look at the best players in the world, I mean, they're missing, they're trying to hit 1 yard little boxes,
yes.
And for most of us amateurs, that's not realistic. But even if the numbers, I always talk about when we use tools in our clinic to like measure strength or power, there's accuracy, but then there's also like reliability or consistency. And I can deal with a tool that's maybe slightly inaccurate, so it overestimates by 5 or 10 pounds of force.
Mm-hmm.
As long as it's the same 5 or 10 pounds of force every time. I do feel like the sims, like, yeah, maybe it's 45 in the sim and it's 50 outside, but like, I do feel like they've gotten pretty good that they're relatively consistent in one direction. You're not getting a ton of, you have the occasional like random reading, but it's gotten, even if it's maybe slightly off, it's like pretty consistent.
Yeah. And sometimes, I hear outside, hit it this distance, and it's only going this distance. And, that's another thing, when you're outside, you're on the golf course and the flag's at 150, but it's in the back, and you hit let's say your 8 iron, and it lands in the front part of the green and bounces up towards the back. It's like, well, I hit my 8 iron 150. Well, that sim's going to show you that it was 135.
And it rolled out.
Right. But, to your point, these sims now, it's gotten unbelievably good in the last, I don't know, 5-10 years. Like, when I first got to Wisconsin, there really wasn't that many options.
Yeah.
And now every company has one, and there's sim bars, and it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And they're all really pretty darn good now.
Yeah, it is crazy. And I think that those carry numbers are underrated. And that, again, that's something that you can't get outside. Because, unless you regularly practice with some type of TrackMan or something outdoors. Right. But at the end of the day, that's really the thing. Because like the overall distance, firmness of the greens, firmness of the fairway, like there's so many things outside the, when you listen to a PGA Tour player talk, they know their carry numbers, but like they really know their ball speeds, because that's the thing that no matter the altitude, the thing like that doesn't change. And, when you're out picking targets, or it's like, well, can I fly it over that bunker, or can I, like, you care about how far you fly the ball, not how far it ends up. It's just, it's hard to get that number other than when you're in a simulator.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I think just shifting gears is we just quickly talk about mistakes that I see people make when they're practicing, because we do see a lot of people that get sore over the winter. And there's a few things that I'll see. One is people tend to skip warm-ups. Maybe you're in a sim bar and you kind of feel like a goofball as everyone's drinking beer and you're like doing your active warm-up type thing, which I understand, but that can really play a big role, where you just, walk in from the car, you grab your simulator, you got an hour, you just start wailing away at golf balls and you kind of skip your normal routine. So that can be a big mistake that we see people make, is they don't do the same things that they typically do before a round of golf. The second thing that we'll see is it's very easy to hit too many balls in rapid succession. Like the balls are right there. You can just fire them into the screen.
Right.
The reading comes up. You just grab the next one. You hit again. And because of that, I think I've never like researched this, but my assumption would be if you looked at balls per minute of like in a simulator versus even outside, you don't have to wait for the ball to land. Like you just hit it in the screen, you grab the next one, you hit again. I think you hit way more per hour that you're in the simulator than you might when you're out practicing. And, that just adds up over time. And all of a sudden you're hitting 200 golf balls and we see some overuse injuries. So we really try to get people to like slow down, go through the whole process, like think about, have an intent, pick a target, try to move the golf ball a certain way, those types of things, just to practice for the same amount of time, get more out of the session, but also hit a lower volume of golf balls, which will help with those overuse injuries.
Mm-hmm.
We see a lot of back and then like particularly forearm discomfort in the winter. I think that's just from the mats. It's a firmer surface. You catch them heavy. It just is a little jarring to those structures.
Yes.
So we will just typically see that. I don't know that there's a great answer of what do you do about that other than, again, just watch the volume of golf balls that you're hitting and just being cognizant of that. And then other issue that we've seen, and this is maybe especially in like higher level players, but it's like the timing of golf. Like you're often, I'd say in the summer, most of the time people don't like go do a hard workout and then go walk 18 holes. Like that's kind of their workout for the day. We see a lot more in the winter. Like I worked out in the morning and then I went and hit golf balls at my lunch break or on my way home from work. And, I do think there's something to the order, the structure of your week, how you're sequencing these things together, that if you're practicing and working out a lot can really play a role. I'd say for the average just recreational player that's hitting balls once a week, that's not like a big concern. But for some of the high school kids, we have seen some issues where it's like, they're just kind of ordering their week a little bit wrong. And we typically only see it in the winter because they're not playing 6-hour golf rounds. They're going hitting balls for an hour and then they're going to the gym and vice versa. So some things that are just a little bit different that are maybe worthy of just taking a look at if you're somebody that's starting to hit a lot of balls, dealing with some discomfort and pain. But overall, I would anecdotally say I'd rather have people hit even once a week, because then when we go outside in the spring, those muscles are used to the movements, the joints are used to the movements. It's not like you haven't swung a club for 4 or 5 months and then everything usually hurts after that first day.
Couple calluses.
Yeah, a couple calluses need to get built up. So kind of going off that, from a practice standpoint for you, and you can break this is a super broad topic, so kind of a little bit unfair, but how would you encourage somebody to break down a week or set up a practice schedule? Obviously, there's different levels of golfers that have different goals, but
right.
in maybe a couple of the common scenarios, how would you suggest people kind of try to build things and put it together?
Yeah, I mean, I think the obvious point of this is like the amount of change you can make is going to be dictated by the amount of availability and have. And it's not even just, with, do I have a sim to hit on or not? It's just life in general, right? I know we're adults, we get busy, kids get busy.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's like throwing in the addition of another sport or another like wintertime activity, right? So there's so many other factors, right, that can play in this, like a schedule. However, I'd like to think, if you have a lesson, whether it's a weekly lesson, depending on what you're working on, it can be every couple of weeks, just kind of checking in. I'd like to, if you're there if you can get 3 days, right, which is definitely hard, especially in the winter,
yep.
I'd like to see, one day that is just pretty much full swing or whatever the exact skill you're working on. So if it's putting, that's a putting, but one of those per week. And I know sometimes, some of these are like you kind of by the hour kind of thing, which is also maybe why people hit a lot of balls. It's like them getting more golf balls
more swings per minute. Yeah.
Good ROI.
Yes.
But, if you could, I'd say you're going to make full swing changes and you have to buy the hour, right? Again, quality over quantity is so important. But if you've gotten to a point in that session where you feel like it's going well and you're a little more comfortable with the movement and the strike's gotten better, it's more on the center, it's flying the way you want it to, then your time doing that is done, right? And then you maybe transition to like playing a hole with it and see if a lot of these sims have like par 3 courses. Maybe you're going to go play a par 3 course to see if it can translate with a couple different clubs, not hitting the same club every time, right? So I'd like to see one of those days. And then if, let's say, that second day is a little bit of kind of refresh from the first day, but then you're working on something different. Maybe you're bringing in your wedges, or maybe it's a putter if it's, a full swing change. Mm-hmm. And then that last day, again, it's like almost like a warm up, doing the skills you want. And then it's a play day. So can I take this to the golf course? Can I hit a number? And maybe it's not, playing holes. Maybe it's some of the games or something, some skill game or a combine or something like that. And then, if you have less than 3 days to work on it, you just kind of interchange those things out. But I would say that, just because you have, the hour, let's say, for like a sim rental, it does not mean you have to just sit there and beat 7 irons for an hour. You can, and I think there is definitely a threshold where that stops becoming productive.
Yeah.
And it might not be unproductive that first day, but it might get unproductive the next day or the next day. And then you start to kind of taper down because you're not adding anything else to it.
Yeah. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. If we were looking at somebody that has one day in between lessons or something, would you rather have them focus on that main like lesson thing, or like kind of sprinkle in like little bit like wedges for 15 minutes, full swing for 15 minutes, whatever other skill for 15 minutes, and then like play a hole for 15 minutes? Or would it be better to just focus on that lesson change, and then with whatever time is left, then go play a little bit?
Yeah, I think you focus on the lesson change.
Yep.
Until it doesn't feel, it either starts to feel better or we start to see some results, and then you can, if it takes 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. It took 20 minutes. If it takes 45, sometimes there is situations where you just have to kind of stay the course a little bit.
Yep.
And, it'll get there, but maybe it's going to take a little bit longer. Maybe it might be in a couple weeks of that if you only have a day, right, in between a lesson. And, but, so it's hard to kind of break it down by like minutes. I think it's more like if I can accomplish like a task I have set for the day, then I can move on to something else. Yeah.
No, I think that's a really good point. And probably for people, we often, maybe as amateurs, don't ask that enough from the teacher about like, okay, I'm like, realistically, I'm going to be able to hit one more time. Like, well, what should I do? Like, almost get your homework assignment. Cause otherwise we like show up and you don't really have a plan. And then you just randomly whale up balls for a while and you go home.
And like an example of like a task can be, okay, I'm going to hit 20 balls, and each ball is going to have I'm going to step behind the ball, collect my target. I'm going to walk in with the same routine, and maybe I have, some spray on the face, right? And, I want at least, 12 of these balls out of the 20 to be in the middle. And if I do that, it's my set of 20, great. Then you've done it for the day.
Yeah.
Like, you've taken the time to do it. It obviously has to feel pretty good. Like if it's, that rate of like center contact, and then you can move on. But maybe you only get like a 9. Okay, well, what did we work on? Was there maybe a drill that I need to redo, right, that we did in the lesson that helped in a lesson? Then you just rerun it again. And when you break it down that way, it really makes you treat every shot like it means something, even though it's like in a sim, snow, not on the golf course.
Right.
Right. You don't have your club championship next week, probably, right? Stuff like that. But it really starts like building that routine, and like that over a long period of time. It doesn't have to be 10 hours a day. It can just be tasks over
over time.
And that really helps.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good idea. And that makes a lot of sense. And I think sometimes one of the things that I say physically for people is they underestimate what they can do in a year. They overestimate what they can do in one workout session. It's probably a similar thing with you. Is I bet you get a lot of people that just want to like fix everything in one session, and I'm going to go practice. Like I've got it figured out, or this doesn't work. I didn't figure it out. But it's like, yeah, if you just think about, hey, we've got 12, 16 weeks, whatever it is now, till it gets reasonably nice. We can go outside and play a little bit. If you were intentional about using that 1 hour a week over that 16 weeks, you could probably do a lot. And if you had the ability to do 3 days a week, you could probably change a lot of stuff and really build some consistency.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we were to layer in some physical stuff on top of Jason's lesson schedule there, especially, the 3 day a week, the person that's practicing 3 days a week, that's really serious about wanting to improve their game and like trying to maximize this winter, that's going to be the most complicated to sequence. And in general, what we're looking for is your hardest gym workout to actually correspond within about 24 hours of your hardest golf practice session, which is going to be anything involving the full swing, especially hitting drivers, just because of the club head speed. It's going to be the most neuro fatiguing. What we would typically like to see is the full swing to occur before the workout, and then the workout to occur as quickly as possible after that full swing session if we were trying to maximize it. And that's really, sometimes people are confused by that, but the idea is actually that we stack stress and we then give your body the next 24, 36, 48 hours to actually recover from that workout. The issue where you do the hard workouts and then hard swing was one day, hard workout the next day, hard swings the next day, is there's no recovery time. And so over the course of time, that can just really add up and kind of take those things out of you. So on lower like wedges, putting, kind of any drill-based practice session where we're not really trying to move really quickly, very little impact on your workout performance, and your workout's going to have very little impact on those days. It's really just, even if you're not doing like full-on speed training, like the days that you're ripping a bunch of drivers, even if it's just practicing, those are going to be the ones that we just want to be a little bit cognizant of. How does that fit in your week? And if we can, that would be the ideal structure. People aren't PGA Tour players, so we can't just optimize our weeks around our golf schedule sometimes. So do the best that you can. But in general, those would be the ones that I at least think about. For the once a week practicer, I'm really not that worried about it. If we can get in the gym, it's going to depend on what you're doing. But a workout could look like anything for 10 to 15 minutes of mobility and just like body control type exercises every morning. Could just work out, or it could just be trying to be consistent with like doing a warm up. If you are going to the gym, even once or twice a week is going to be enough to start seeing some success and helping you feel better, move a little bit better, to hopefully get more out of that lesson and really be durable as well. So it's not an all or nothing thing. It is definitely, just like practicing golf is scalable to your goals, the workouts can be scalable to your goals as well. And we can really fit a routine to individual people. So then you kind of got into the setups a little bit, having an intent, having a target, trying to do things like that. As people kind of approach a practice session, what else should they do? And feel free to, maybe there's some different things if they're hitting wedges or full swings type thing, but any other tips if you're going to go and say like, hey, I want to work on this skill, or I'm going to try to do this, that you'd like to see people incorporate?
Yeah, I think the most important part to, something to incorporate in a practice session inside is you have to have feedback. And so, the ultimate feedback is the numbers right on the screen. But, what I find is, you mentioned earlier, sometimes we chase numbers.
Yeah.
If I'm chasing, a path being a little more in out, but then my face gets really far pointed to the right, well, I'm still not hitting target, but you might have changed the one number, but now you're chasing another. So a lot of times, I'll just kind of take away that feedback for something else. So, that could be impact spray on your face, right? That could be a mirror. Right? That could be, we do it a lot. I have something just, here's the ball. I have something just on the outside of the ball. We can swing, without hitting that outside piece. Just or like an alignment stick. Maybe if the place you're at has some of those like those holders, right?
Yep.
Maybe there's an alignment stick there that you can swing under or over whenever you're working on, right? All of these things, especially when you're working by yourself without your coach, there has to be something that's giving you that feedback. And what I see a lot of is, okay, I did a drill. I'm just going to try to recreate that feeling just by hitting golf balls. And they're not really doing that drill, or, they're just don't have any piece of feedback for them.
Yeah.
And that's definitely where people kind of get derailed.
Yeah. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, honestly, even if you have nothing else, even just, I think that the technology in golf coaching has gotten so much better. I mean, I'll send you a video on Skillist of like, hey, is this right? This is like, I think this is what you want, or this is what it feels like. But like as a last case, if you're working with a coach that has access, I mean, I feel like almost every coach is doing some type of
some form
video lesson, email type thing afterwards. It's like, just take a video and be like, this felt really good. Is this what you want me to do? Is this what you want me to do? Can just make sure you're not like going way down the wrong path or things like that.
Yeah, I think honestly, like I've gotten from students, I don't want to like bug you. It's like, honestly, I would so much rather you send me a quick text or, something in Skillist, like, hey, is this right? Rather than you just assuming it is when it's not. And just like you come back and what are you doing? So now we have to like almost backtrack. I think your coaches would, I don't really see a world where they're like, stop checking in.
Yeah, for sure. But no, there are so many different things. I mean, you don't want to be like the like tin cup guy with 27 different training aids hanging off you. But
honestly, like, one is good. Like one thing, maybe you can have an alignment stick and then, that object kind of on the outside of the ball.
Yeah.
Maybe, but like you start doing that and then get like the tour striker ball and then get there's a lot of them and they're all really good, but they're all meant to be used as like one thing.
Right. Not combined.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, even a simple one, for years, probably the thing that I personally struggle with the most hitting indoors is like the sight lines. Like it just doesn't look right to me. And one of the things that's helped me the most has been consistently using an alignment stick. And I always used to use it as on my foot line. This year, I've actually been using it as like a target line and trying to like start the ball left or right of straight, and just like having that extra little checkpoints. Been even something simple that's helped me. Like I know that the face is pointing where I think it's pointing on the screen, because for some reason the screen doesn't.
You left or right? Is it left or right when you?
I almost end up. I feel like I'm aiming more right than I am, and it just doesn't correlate.
It also like depends on the sim too.
I think it does, and where the ball is located. I mean, the sim that you guys used to have at Shaniqua and the sim that I have at my house is the same brand, but where you set the golf ball up was different, and it looked vastly different to me when I would hit at different spots. So that's been something that like just these simple things of being a little bit more intentional, you can get a lot more out of those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's go just a couple maybe big errors. We probably hit a bunch of these, but like what do you see? Like what are the mistakes when you see a student that you work on something, they come back in a week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever it is, and things went off the rails? Like what are some common trends that you see?
I mean, like I said, I think we touched on a bunch of them. I think the not doing the drill you did in the lesson.
Yep.
There's a reason we had done that drill in the lesson. That's actually something I'm gonna give you some props, because every time I get down at the range or whatever, I usually see you do a drill that we did in our lesson. I'm gonna give you props. You're right here live in front of your audience.
I'm trainable.
Coachable.
Yeah.
No, so like not doing the drill and just kind of like assuming or trying to just get the numbers you were getting in a lesson by just swinging. I think that's like a massive one. The other obvious one is just firing golf balls. The only thing I do like about Sims, sometimes you have to wait for the ball to land. So I think something like reset. So like, sometimes that's a good thing. Honestly, the big one though is just not treating a simulator shot the same way you would treat a range shot, the same way you would treat a shot on the golf course.
Yeah.
So even just like, depending on like what the target ranges are on the sim, like I love like switching target, and instead of having a 100-yard target, maybe it's 107, because then you can kind of get the feedback like, okay, where would it have actually hit? Because it's so rare to have 100 yards or 50 yards or 200 yards, right? And there's always like those odd yardages. So like, giving yourself some of those odder yardages, and it actually like helps for course management too, to see like, okay, I'm roughly 160 with this club. I'm going to put the flag at 157. Okay, where would that actually leave me? Just making a normal swing instead of trying to like take a little off and like, you're right. Cause then we start taking like too much off.
Yeah.
And the same vein is like not treating it like an encore shot, just like not really having a routine aim or like walk into the ball.
Right.
To make sure like the setup is kind of where it needs to be every time. Again, maybe it's one of those things like I kind of feel silly like going behind the ball because there's a line usually on this. So it's like, I know what the target is, but like, again, like small bits like over a long period of time will like really, really help when you do get outside and you don't have that line anymore.
Yeah. No, I think that's really good. What about any game ideas? I mean, I know you had one year for distance wedges, you'd have me like pull 2 cards out of a deck and like, make up a number and try to hit that. But any other games that maybe are especially outside of just like the games that you can play on the sim that are really fun to play for people that they maybe can't do outside, but are good practice games?
Yeah. So like the 90% game, I think we played that. So it's really like a 10%. So really you just get a yardage, and I usually do like a number randomizer on my phone, and let's say it's 170. So 10% of that you get short or long. So obviously it gets maybe a touch easier as it gets into there. But like if you pull like 55, okay, now you only have like 5.5 yards on each side.
Yeah.
So I really like that game. You took the one with the deck of cards. That one I actually learned from a junior golfer years ago that learned it from like Ray Lewis, that he like did that with push-ups. So I just put any of the yardages. So that's actually one of my favorite games that I like to play.
Yeah, that one, it was fun. I still kind of use it. You basically just take 2 cards and you pull them. You're going to get a number ranging somewhere. I mean, so I've never thought, I guess you could get something that's 200 if you got 2 10s.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're going to just add them together and get a 93 or whatever. And you just try to hit as close as you can to that number. And it's kind of fun. It's the best that I've ever found of probably simulating, like you go and shoot a yardage and you get whatever random thing. And like you said, it's almost never a round number.
Yeah.
So it's, I found it to be like a good way to practice wedges.
Yeah, the other way I've done it too is like, I'm just going to assume it's going to be 100. So if you get if you deal a 4 to 5, it's 145.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
that'd be an easy one too.
Yeah. Play your friends and.
Yeah.
I think that's actually one other mistake is like almost not having like someone to like play with.
Yeah.
Right. And like to kind of train with, because like those kind of things I try to do like some small group stuff in the winter. It really helps the time go by, especially more on like performance days rather than like block practice days.
Yeah.
Kind of having a little bit of that competition, that really helps.
Yeah. Well, and I think you had me do this a little bit even over the summer, and I don't see why I wouldn't work in the sim depending on what you were doing, but it's like having some type of like, because I think it can be very easy just hitting the box. Like there's no consequences. You don't have to go look for your golf ball.
Yeah.
Like it's easy to just take smooth, confident swings, but having some type of, like I think you said it earlier, with if you're doing a face control game, like 12 out of 20 have to be in the center of the face, or you got to do it again. But like something like, I think you had me do this summer, I had to hit a simulated fairway with the driver 10 times in a row. If I missed one, I had to go like make a putt. If you miss the putt, then you got to start the driver over again. Or
so what the game is, so you start with a drive.
Yeah.
And you have on a sim, you likely don't have like like a fairway. I guess you can, but let's say you just give yourself, let's call it like 15 to 20 yards from center. So if it's 21 yards, then your next shot is from like 150. But if you hit it, your next shot is from like 125.
Yeah.
So you have that advantage. And then the game is essentially, can you make par, or, maybe like if you one putt, got, for you, if you hit the green, then you had the ball from 4 feet. If you missed the green, it was a 10-footer.
Yeah.
So then the game is how many times can you actually make the putt?
Right.
So obviously the 4-footer is going to go in more, or at least it should.
Yeah.
But you still have the opportunity to get up and down on a golf course, but generally it's going to be a little bit farther.
Yeah.
So there's just kind of different ways to like spice it up, if you will.
Yeah, just like add some consequence, because I think that is the one thing with the Sims. Like, there's no. You can
just keep firing.
Just keep firing, and having something that's like just some annoying practice thing. Like, oh, if I don't do this, I've got to go do this thing that I hate practicing 10 more times or something.
Perfect.
It just adds something. So just having that plan as you get in there, having an intent, something that you're working on, some feedback, and then trying to add some type of pressure that you might not get outside eventually is really good. You're going to get a lot more out of the practice.
Right. Pressure makes diamonds, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, well, hopefully that gives a lot of overview on how to actually use winter practice to improve. We layered in a little bit of the fitness side. I definitely wanted to make it a little bit more golf practice specific, because I know just in the clinic, we've seen a bunch of golfers this week, and feels like after the new year now, all of a sudden, everyone's kind of thinking about that spring golf trip. The high school players are starting to think about tryouts, etc. So hopefully this will be stuff you can use here over these next period of weeks while the weather's cold up in the northern areas, and get a little bit more out of your practice time. So thanks for sharing the insights.
Absolutely.
And we'll be back. We'll do another one of these. As we get closer to outside, we're going to try to start talking about, hey, how do we transition outside? How do we start hot if we're maybe a high school player getting ready for tryouts? What can you do? So, and we've got a couple more plans. We'll try to keep these rolling through the golf off season and help everyone have a really good playing season as the weather gets nice. So thanks, Jason, for the time. Thank you everyone for listening, and we will see you guys on the next episode.